Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton, and I have two guests today that's just unbelievable the way we've been able to connect recently. I was on their show, and it's amazing. I met Taylor previously. I hadn't really met Brett, and we get in the same room, and I feel like were supposed to be there a long time ago. So I want to welcome two awesome businessmen, and for the first time on my podcast, I'm not the best looking dude on the call. So I've got Taylor and Brett Young on here, models, but also own an insurance company. So let's get busy, guys.
Oh man, I think that's a subjective judgment. I don't know if I can take that, but man, do you want to pad the ego this early in the morning, man? I'm not going to stop you. Totally.
Oh man, I was always taught to come out of the gate and be gracious, right? And then go for it. So there we go,
man. It is great to see you, by the way.
Yeah, it's funny. When we first had a chance to sit down and on your show, it was amazing. Like, we just kicked it right off and ran with it before we ever turned any mics on or anything. And I felt like we were supposed to be there. Like, I'm supposed to meet with you guys, and we're supposed to develop this friendship outside of just the podcast, because it's very rare I get into a room and someone speaks the same language that I do all the time. I just feel like that's what we do. Like, when we talk and we hop on the phone, I talked to Brett a couple days ago, and it was just like, we just jumped right in. So I want to start out with, how did we get to the insurance business?
You want to take that one, buddy?
I feel like I've been telling the story a lot, man. I'd love to see you tell it. I don't know. See if
I'll tell it. I'll tell it, man. I'll tell it. With it's funny. We didn't come. Insurance industry. You hear a lot of people talk about, hey, we fell in it. I didn't mean to be in the insurance industry. I'm in the insurance industry by accident. I'm certainly, I can borrow a little bit from that, but I know Brett kind of led the way into the industry. He and Rod, some people that get in the insurance business, maybe their family was in the insurance business, and it's a legacy thing that they're either coming into or they're learning, taking over, et cetera. Especially agency owners. You have a lot of agencies that are third, fourth, sometimes even fifth generation that have been around a long time. I think insurance is actually technically the oldest or one of the oldest businesses in the world. Specifically in the United States. So you have a lot of that history. We didn't have that. We didn't have that history. Brett got to know, so it's myself, Brett, and then Rod Erb, our other partner, brother from another mother, became fast friends. Brett and Rod became fast friends. They were selling a product, really multi-level marketing, MLM. It was an insurance-based product, now called Legal Shield, back then prepaid legal, and they're really cutting their teeth and got in a business together, building a team back in 2006. Rod always corrects us on the year, and we have differing years of when everything started. But I'm pretty sure.
Pretty good, yeah.
It was 2006, so they got rolling in that, man. Having some success. It was really a product that required a lot of education. It was more of what we'd consider a push-through product, where customers didn't necessarily have to have it, or did they know what it did. So you kind of had to bring them all the way along from prospecting to education and then hopefully to a sales situation. Oh, by the way, if you sold the product, it was a very small margin, very small price point. And so they did that for a long time, really educated themselves. And I was on their team loosely, but I was in school at UCF playing basketball. And so, had some success, but it was really based around the entry to personal development, the entry to how to build a team, the entry into really a business 101 education in a real way. Brett, I probably read his first book. He was getting out of school. He was one of those 7-year guys. I was a 5-year guy. Weren't front runners as far as the traditional education system. Sorry, mom and dad. So just one of those things. It was just an education by fire, and then quickly realized that insurance and property and casualty specifically would be a good vehicle. And so instead of being able to push through a product and having to do all this work to educate people, and they were doing employee benefits at the end where they were meeting with companies, and kind of similar to like an Aflac offering, a voluntary benefit. So it kind of evolved in a way, but the core of the experience was really team building and personal development. And that's where the value in the education came. And then the P&C business, the insurance, property, and casualty business, just came as saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could offer this product in a vehicle and a distribution point that people already had to buy. They already know what it is. And they just buy it from us. So Brett went to work for kind of an agency that was breaking into Florida from Kentucky, small mom and pop agency. Started as a commission-only producer, convinced his wife at the time to move in an apartment they couldn't afford and, go start this journey as a, aspiring team building business owner. So why don't you take it from there and take us the rest of the way home?
That's pretty good, man. I guarantee you I couldn't do that in a shorter period of time than that was. That was awesome. At that point, basically entered the property and casualty space, found the job on Craigslist like all incredibly successful entrepreneurs do. You just look on Craigslist, what is available. But man, like ignorance on fire, like I had no idea what I was doing, but just knew that we wanted to take those same concepts. We learned from some of the best team builders in the world, like Jeff Olson. Shout out to Jeff Olson, as the author of The Slide Edge. I mean, he's built billion-dollar sales organizations, and we got to mentor under that type of leadership. So that 5 years, was a schooling 101 for how to build a large organization. And so we thought that those concepts were extremely valuable. It's just that vehicle wasn't going to get it done for us based on a couple of variables that Taylor said. So that's why the property casualty space just seemed to make so much more sense. Higher price point, you can increase that value price point. It's a mass-produced product where everybody consumes it, and it has that residual component that was very, very important to us. So went to work for that firm. Year in, did some things that I wouldn't have done again. Did some handshake deals that unfortunately didn't work out for us. I had brought over 3 people to come work with me at the time, and we were building a team inside of an agency. We had no interest in building an agency. We wanted to build a team. And the 13th month, I think I made $13,000 my first year. Absolutely starved. But the renewals are coming in, right? So that's how our business works. You do something one time, you get paid over and over and over again. So that second year, I was going to get that residual coming in because I sold my wife on this dream, right? And on the 13th month, they changed the deal. And it was a considerable change to the deal that we had. And they knew it because they knew I was, that was going to be, well, I'm not going to walk away because I've got this wave of renewals coming in. And they they totally changed the situation. So the biggest blessing that ever happened. Is extremely bitter for a long time about it, but realized that the only reason we're here today is because of that decision that they made, which was a very poor one on their end. And at that point, we decided that we should look around and went and interviewed at all the big box shops for insurance, found out real quick that the corporate route wasn't the way that we wanted to go. So we had this problem. We had this mom and pop situation that just did not work out well at all. And then you had this big corporate giant that was, what have you done for me lately? Good cop, bad cop, that didn't work out well. And so, I think Rod had said flippantly one time, like, well, what would happen if we just built it ourselves? And that is just it's a good lesson in life. Like, if you want good answers, you should ask good questions. And at that point, we started looking for what that would look like. And it's a very difficult thing to do, to start from scratch. It's a challenging thing. It's not easy because it's like the chicken and egg conversation. Give me the insurance carriers and then I'll get you customers. It's like, well, no, go get the customers and then I'll give you the insurance carriers. It's very difficult. So at that point, we joined an aggregator, gained some markets, started from scratch. Before that, Taylor was getting out of school. So Rod and I we all have different skill sets, the 3 of us. And we all have very similar philosophies, but we all have very different personalities and different skill sets. And it was very obvious working with Rod that we really needed a point guard for this to work. We really need somebody that is a really good executor, that's extremely detailed, that's almost to the point I'm a little bit, it's kind of hard to keep me on track a little bit. And Taylor's the complete opposite. So he was getting out of school, and we're like, hey, man, we got this terrible idea. Do you want to join us, in this pipe dream? And he's like, good, yeah, because I hate this internship, and I can't do this for the rest of my life. So, yeah, let's go. Whatever it is, man. I don't even know if he knew it. I don't even know if he really knew exactly what he was signing up for. But he's like, man, you know what? I've been watching this. I've been part of this from afar for a while. And an opportunity to ring the American dream, dude, let's go. And at that point, we one policy at a time. We started in a upstairs basement in Rod's house, and we worked our ass off for 3.5 years, not knowing if it was going to work. And then about 5 years in, realized, wow, this thing is going to work. And now 12 years later, we've been fortunate enough to build a business that's, at this point, we started from scratch. We're probably, pushing the $20 million range at this point. So, we've done pretty well, and we're excited about the future, but I think that's really cool because it was all just bootstrapped, man.
Where'd the confidence come from to go out on your own and do that? Are your parents entrepreneurs? Was it instilled in you at a young age? You can do anything if you work hard. I want to know the background on that.
Yeah, man, I'll take that. That's deep in my soul. When you talk about people talk about a why and stuff like that, and I think that subconsciously we were figuring out that why along the way. Mom actually was very instrumental and the founder of a Florida virtual school, government funded and run program that's now become one of the largest employers in the education space in Central Florida. But I think it's the largest virtual school of its kind in the United States. So she, back in the late '90s, I remember her coming home and saying, "Hey, we have this idea that we're going to do this online school." And we're like, "What? That's dumb. Like, who's going to do that?" You know,
Like this was nobody did that at the time. Like that didn't exist. I think it's hard sometimes the viewers at home that are listening to this be like, oh yeah, of course that makes sense. But like there was a moment in time where that was nobody knew even how that was possible. You know.
I was still dial-up days. You were still doing dial-up days back then.
Yeah, dial-up days for sure. You're doing online education, and so fast forward, she was the CEO for there for almost 2 decades. I think it was 18 years before she took a step back, and she's still in that space in another area. But she was also a pioneer in a lot of senses. You know, culture's become something that has always it's become a buzzword in certain ways. But she was really the culture before culture became cool, right? Like she was one of the first people that started pouring into us to say, hey, look, if you work with somebody, you should probably enjoy having dinner with them, right? Like this idea that some of her best friends were people that she worked with. I remember even growing up in middle school and high school, her bringing the executive team over to the house and getting to know those people really well and seeing how well they got along and how much they loved what they did. I mean, it was just something that was kind of pouring into our subconscious. And and she was obviously very successful and loved her to death. And my dad, who had a big, corporate job, kind of climbed his way up the corporate ladder, IBM, Sprint, Embark, all these different ones, and did really well, made good money, and had everything you'd want out of the American dream from a corporate career. And then all of a sudden there was this year 2008 that came and boom, he was a number on a page and accepted a package to transition. And all of a sudden he went from, making really good money and having a track that was pretty predictable to having to start over in his 50s. And we watched that happen as kids, right? And so that was kind of my first introduction to entrepreneurship, of like, hey, why would you, start a business, or why is it valuable to have more say in your track, if you will, right? Because I saw my dad go from 100 to 0 in a second, and so yeah, I think that led personally for me, for both of us. I mean, Brett was already kind of, in that entrepreneurial spirit. I know for me, I would have been a great employee. I always say that. I would have been fantastic. So, but seeing my parents have those experiences really led to some of those entrepreneurial tendencies of like, hey, why would you do this?
Yeah, I remember that day like it was yesterday. I'm literally headed to a meeting, and I'm building this business with Rod at the time and Taylor from afar. And you're a voluntary army, right? I'm going to a place where someone's not paying me to potentially generate some value to create, your future. That's that entrepreneurial spirit. And it wasn't always looked upon from my folks that, that was the right move. It wasn't like they were always supportive. They were very supportive of us. They were very supportive of what we wanted to do. However, they didn't necessarily understand that because that's not necessarily where they came from. So, but I remember I'm leaving the house and my father pulls into the neighborhood, and I so happen to see him. And it's the day that he gets this package put in front of him after 20 years plus of being the top performer in the entire company. And he ran sales for the entire, for one of the biggest regions in the United States, and he was the top dog forever. I just remember him looking at me, and he said a couple things specifically to what he was going to do, but he also looked at me for the first time and he said, go build your business. And that was the first time I ever felt the support from my father in regards to that this was the direction that we should go. And that was a big moment, not only for him. I know it was a massive moment for him, but it was a big moment for me, his son, to know that, you have that support. And that, so it's a cool moment.
Well, I want to go back to your mom first saying that, it's about sharing a meal with somebody or being with somebody who you want to be in business with. I saw Conor McGregor say something this morning, and he said, and it's probably an old take, it just happened to show up in a feed, and it said, I won't share a meal with someone who I won't starve with. And I thought about that. I'm like, God, that's so powerful. And I'll go back to a story. I'll tell you, when I got married 6 years ago, people kept asking me, "Oh, am I invited to the wedding?" I'm like, look, no offense, but if I wouldn't spend $150 on you at a meal outside of the wedding, I'm not going to do it at my reception. So that kind of gives you a picture in the window of that. But we were taught, or not necessarily taught, but we thought as a kid that the right thing to do would be get a job in a stable environment, get a 401k, and go on about your time, because that's safety. Mm-hmm. There's no safety in corporate America. The only safety is working for yourself. And people don't realize that, because you can control everything, just about everything. You can't control what the market does sometimes, but you can control the work you put in when you work for yourself. So I absolutely love that part of it. What a powerful story for your dad to be able to share that with you, and for you guys to see that firsthand, that 20 years equals a buyout package when times get hard.
So, and to finish my dad's story, what's also stuck is that, in 2008, when that happened, the worst thing happened, his life got better. Once he got back on his feet and he found a passion in becoming a financial advisor, and now he's been doing that 12, 13 years. He's been successful in the second time of his career. Seeing him going from wearing a suit in the middle of the summer, probably ego completely stripped down, knocking on doors, an Edward Jones guy. And I'm a college kid, and entitled college kid, right? And he's starting over. So, but our family life got better. His life got better. Everything got better after this worst moment, and you were stripped down to the very basics. And then, what's that quote that we were always taught about, working for money versus commissions, right? We always talk about, you talk about security. There's security in getting paid
off of a
result and what you're worth, right? Call it working for yourself, call it working for commissions. Your value to the marketplace is your value to the marketplace, right? It's not politics. It's not, oh, you're in good with your boss, and so you got the promotion, but now you're in bad with your boss, so you get fired. Like, no, you're getting paid on the value you're bringing to the marketplace, which I think is powerful, what you referenced.
Yeah, and I wanted to piggyback off that with, my dad. I mean, I after that moment, essentially he's been somewhat self-employed. So it's been fascinating to watch this shift in his life to move more into this entrepreneurial focus, and I don't think it's by accident that he's built it completely back up and more, and so I'm super proud of that. Just shows his character, but also in a sense of I think they're connected. I think when you work for results and not what someone else's perceived value of it is, the level of fulfillment you get is just so much higher, because you know what your self-worth is, right? You're not relying on basing your self-worth on what somebody points their finger at you and says what you're worth. And I think that's just such a gift. I think that's freedom. I think there's a sense of liberation that comes with that I wish more people could embrace, because what that feels like is something that is, it's a life-changing situation. It drastically alters how you perceive yourself. And at the end of the day, I feel like that's the game that we're playing,
I've been a commission guy most of my life, and I want to step back what I said about not working for corporate America. There's great corporate America jobs. I don't want people to hate on me in the comments and all that. There's great corporations out there. But if I have a choice to work at a corporation, they say, we're going to pay you a salary, or we're going to pay you based on what you kill, your commissions. I'm going to take commission every time. First, it's going to hold me accountable to working every day like I need to work, and push myself beyond and do those things, and I feel better about myself. Second, I'm not a line item when I'm a commissioned employee. So if things get tough, they're not cutting the commissioned employees. They're cutting the people that they consider liabilities. So
you're a cost of goods sold instead of a weighted expense. Correct. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's so true.
Yeah. And when I have some of my loan officers come to me, they're like, hey, I need to make more money. I'm like, oh, that's really easy. Close more loans. Like, it's a simple concept. Just close more loans. So you can be the best salary employee in the world and need to make more money, but there's a cap. You're only going to pay you so much, because then the cost of goods go way up, and we can't. That turns into a higher price for the goods we sell. So
you talk about you don't want what you don't want, right? That philosophy, right? So a lot of people, when they're out looking for work, or they're looking for a job, or they're even looking for splits. Like, I know in your business, it's probably no different than ours. Insurance, real estate, loan officers. Like, there's always a better deal, right? There's always somebody that's willing at that time in season to offer you a higher quote unquote split. Hey, you're making 30%, we'll pay you 40%, whatever the nature of the business is.
Or a sign-on bonus, or a higher salary at first. I mean, you could fill in the blank there.
Exactly. Like, we'll take the risk out of it. Like, in the old school mentality to me is like, hey, let's negotiate the best deal, right? And let's shop every mortgage shop or insurance shop in the city, and I'm going to take the best deal. And it also goes back to like college athletics. That's what kids used to do, like without counsel. Like, they'd take the highest offer, but they wouldn't go with the best fit, right? So they end up going to the highest offer. Their freshman year is terrible, and then they transfer out, and their career is, forgettable. Or they end up doing great. But the bottom line is, a company's got to make money too. You want a fair deal. But fair is going to mean it's sustainable, and then you're going to understand the game and understand what goes around it, so you can perform knowing that as long as you get results, that you do have that quote unquote security based on your own merit, rather than somebody manufacturing that security and front loading that security in the form of a draw salary or higher split that is not sustainable. And then again, when times get tough, you're the one right at the top of the list. And again, that's direct experience from, I know my dad's experience from 2008, but you see that over and over and over again. And
even our business partner, Rod, who's not here today, but I mean, he ran a large sales organization and took them from 3 to 9 million. I mean, single-handedly, when he was hired and when he was done. And when it was all said and done, that industry had a government contraction where there wasn't as much reimbursement, and it was a significant change of the wind. And because his salary was so high, because he wasn't a cost of goods sold, unfortunately, even though what he had done was so valuable, they cut it, and he lost his job. And so, he'll tell you, if he was sitting here, this is one of the primary reasons he's in this business too. So there's very similar threads among, our own experiences, to where he looked and said, man, I could do this again and go somewhere else, but man, I don't want this to happen 10 years from now. I want to build something that's got a little bit more stronger foundation. And I know, because I was in the results business, I got to get into a situation where I'm back to the results-oriented compensation. And so his story is really cool too, very similar to that.
When we deal with that in today's market, there's a lot of companies out there calling and offering our loan officers these big signing bonuses. And like, I had a call the other day and from a company that I just happened to know the guy who runs it, and the offer was, I'm like, I'm not even looking, and I got an email, and I look at the offer, I'm like, holy cow, this thing, like, but what does that do for me? I'm already married, right? I don't need to marry somebody else. That's locking me into some stuff that I'm not comfortable with. And where does the money come from? Well, it comes in the price. So in turn, I have to give people worse price because I get a guarantee up front. I'm totally against that. We've never been that way with our company. And will we give someone a little bit of a bridge sometimes? Sure. But we're not throwing out these massive signing bonuses, but we can show you how to go from 0 to 70 million in production, because I've got plenty of cases where I've done that. And then you're going to get leaders who are actually work on themselves every day to grow and be better, because if they don't, they know they'll lose you. So our retention is massively high. So I think that's one of the reasons why all three of us get along so well, is because we're all in that personal development space besides just leading a company. And I want to get your take on that. Like, do you feel the personal development you work on in that space for yourself attracts more people that you want in your life and business, and also helps with your retention?
Oh man, that's a yes and probably a third yes. And furthermore, I think I don't know how the saying goes, right? Once you get clear on what you value and you set your boundaries and you're focused on, say, your personal development, you just naturally start to attract those people. You start to see those people. You start to hang out with those people, and you start to speak the same language. When you get gifts, that you meet people like you, right? So, and then we have something to talk about because we can relate. But I would even say furthermore, before I kick it to you, Brett, I'd love your perspective. And I need the personal development more than ever. I mean, as our business grows, I can feel myself bump into where I'm in a place where I'm competent. I know it. And then boom, all of a sudden our business grows and something else is required. Development and growth is required to be able to get to the next level. And sometimes when I'm struggling or I'm faced with a challenge, I can feel that angst. You go back to the books, you go back to the basics, you go back to the audio, you go back to your process to make sure that you're engaged, regardless of any quote unquote success, lack of success, or anything like that somebody feels like they've had, or I feel like I've had at any point. you just realize that it's borrowed, and there's always that next level of growth, and I can feel myself when I'm out of that rhythm. I can feel myself when I'm watching too much TV and I haven't cracked a book in 2 weeks and 3 weeks, right? I can feel myself getting lazier, and so yeah, I got to stay on the path first and foremost. But yes, I mean, it's been a gift to attract those type of people and run with those type of people, and it's been one of the joys of the business.
Yeah, man. So 16 years ago, someone gave me the greatest gift that they could ever give me, which was a book, and it changed my life. And that is not cliche. It literally changed my life. The direction in which my life was going was not the direction that it should be. And they handed me this book, and I read this book. And at that point in time, I discovered the greatest gift you can ever give yourself, which is the gift of personal development. And so personally, for me, I know that that's the greatest compensation someone's ever paid me. And it's made me millions of dollars, right? And it will make me a lot more money. But more importantly than that, what I meant by perception of self, like my happiness, my fulfillment, my joy, the fruit, the squeeze of life is so much richer today because of the work that's being done internally, right? Like that is an internal situation. That is not external, which the world would lead you to believe that the external is what gives that to you, and that's just not the case, right? Like, so the greatest gift that I've ever gotten from anything is that gift. And so when we study and dive deep in personal development, of course, yes, it is for us. And candidly, if all the employees were gone and we had no business, that would still be a staple because I need it, just like Taylor said. Because it's kind of like once you know, you know. Like if you've been in shape and you've been at the gym and you know what that feels like, when you don't do that, like Taylor said, you know, you have tasted the fruit from Eden's garden. You have now been revealed what the other side looks like. You just can't go back. And so, but I think, especially with corporate America and different companies, I think the greatest gift and the greatest compensation that we give isn't the money that people get paid. It's not the benefits. It's not the fun events. It's not even the culture. It's the gift of giving people the doorway to opening up the possibilities that were already there for themselves, but they didn't know. Equipping them with tools to wring out the beauty and the joy and the greatness of life. And that's what personal development is. So I think absolutely it's inherently connected between our retention and the happiness of our employees and our staff based upon the level of personal development that they were engaged in. If you looked at across the board of the team members that are most fulfilled, having the most success, love the company, love themselves, have better personal lives, are engaged in the practice of personal development. And they link that to Erb and Young. They link it to Erb and Young because that's where they learned it. So we talk about giving. And when you talk about giving to your team and attracting talent, retaining talent, developing talent, like the world, corporate America, businesses, even small businesses. I mean, some small businesses, they're awful. And because we're giving people in such shallow ways, we're not giving as if people are human beings. We're giving to them as if they're numbers on an employment page. Like, so if you were just to say, what's a gift that you can give somebody, like there are so many ways that you can give to somebody that don't show up on a comp package. And personal development to me is the number one thing, because personally for me, that changed the trajectory of my life. And I want to be involved with trying to give somebody that same gift. So answer your question, Chris, 100%, it's a given for me. And I know Taylor just answered that for him and for our partner, but also I think the level of engagement and connection between loyalty, retention, and personal development for us inside our organization is it's unquantifiable in my opinion.
So the question real quick, Brett, what's the name of the book? You didn't say the name of the book.
Oh man, that's a good one. The Slight Edge.
Okay, it's sitting on my bookshelf right there, actually. So
there you go.
Okay, cool.
So we give that to every new team member. That's kind of the first 30 days of employment. They go through that. But it's funny. I wanted to share a perspective. You mentioned something about the best gift. Like I just feel personal development. It's practical. It's useful. It's not just reading. It's not just audios. Mm-hmm. And the business and the arena in which you play in every single day, whether it's in the gym or it's at work, like you're constantly learning stuff and then putting in activity. You're constantly learning a perspective and then you're doing it. And that's that on repeat, right? So you mentioned something, the best gift that somebody can give is personal development. It's not giving them a book like you mentioned, but it's giving them the opportunity to do that, learn activity, knowledge, model knowledge, and all that. And then they can stack skills. I've always felt if somebody learns a sales position or a marketing position in our company, man, I would hope that regardless, I want them to make a lot of money here. I want them to do really well and be successful. But my commitment to them is to say, hey, man, after this, you're going to have skills you didn't have before. You're going to have skills on what it takes to be an elite marketer in any industry. Whatever you go into next, you're going to know how to work leads. You're going to know how to prospect. You're going to know how to, convert. You're going to know how to build lasting relationships and lower your cost of acquisition, right? Like we're going to talk about those things so you're equipped, right? It's kind of like, in a way, what you hope your parents give you as a kid, right? You hope that you get enough skills and enough lessons that you're able to kind of do whatever it takes and go on that path together. And I think also the reason we're so passionate about it, because that was kind of our story. And that was, I look at Brett's story as his brother, right? There's nothing worthy of making a remark about in the early 2000s, mid to 2000s about either of us, right? Very, very average in a lot of ways. And Brett, to see him as a brother to say, hey, this guy went from like, I don't really know if school's for me. It took me 7 years to graduate. I don't really know what I'm going to do. My parents are kind of worried about him because, they think he needs to get a job and he wants to do this entrepreneur thing, to being like, now you fast forward and you go, gosh, this guy's got a lot of tools. This guy's an impressive guy. And I saw that shift in energy. I saw that book change his life. I saw that evolution, right? I saw what was before a guy that just would make excuses and never go to the gym, right? I saw a skinny dude that would just say, I'm a skinny dude. And now a dude's swole, right? So like, it's amazing to see that transformation directly. And it also gives you a passion to give that gift and hopefully be a model for others that are open.
My big takeaway from all that is that we're all three super passionate about learning. And, I went to 1 year of college, so college wasn't my thing, but I learned from sales jobs. I learned from selling cars, and then I didn't start reading till later in life. Now I can't get enough of it, right? Like the reason I want to learn, not just to grow myself, but is the ability to grow others, right? And we talked about this acronym I shared with you guys before, the CAT, change, apply, teach. So every time I read a book, listen to a podcast, go to a conference, what can I change? What can I apply? And what can I teach? For me, that's just a powerful advantage I have over any of my competition. They're not doing that. And when I talk to other people in my industry, what is their biggest struggle? It's not pricing. It's lack of leadership, right? It's lack of leadership. Leaders are MIA when things get bad, and then they celebrate your accomplishments when things get good. I've learned those lessons along the way. I want to share something I saw yesterday with a guy named Dan Martell. I don't know if you guys know who Dan Martell is or not, but he wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time, which is an awesome book to read. He was on Ben Newman's podcast recently, and I was listening to it in the sauna, and when I was done, I jumped out, and I couldn't get to my car fast enough. I called my wife. I go, I'm changing everything right now. She's like, okay, you just got to have 160 degrees. Let's think about this for a couple minutes. But he's talked about this, and it really opened my eyes. He said, people are one of two ways when it comes to personal development. They're either a tugboat or they're a lighthouse. A tugboat is someone that constantly shares what they're doing in personal development and make you feel bad if you're not doing it. I was like, shit, am I a tugboat? Dude, I got to rethink that because I love to share what I'm doing. Or the lighthouse is someone who's doing it, you see it, but they understand you may need to take a different path to get there, but they're going to show you the way. I'm like, okay, well, I got to revisit some of that stuff and become more of a lighthouse than I am a tugboat. How do you guys feel about yourselves personally? Are you more lighthouse or tugboat, or is that the first you've heard of this?
I'll take that. I mean, there are times when I'm a tugboat. There are times when I'm a tugboat. I hope on the macro I'm a lighthouse. That's a good perspective, man. I've heard of a flashlight before, right? Flashlight or a lighthouse. Nobody wants a flashlight shined in their face, But that's a great reminder of let your life be an example of what's possible and something that may have some truth to it. So it's a good question, man. I would feel self-conscious if I were to tell you that I'm a lighthouse, because I think there are times when I have good intentions, but I can be in a tugboat probably unintentionally. So that's a good reminder.
It's funny though, Chris, and it's no accidents. We do our annual leadership summit once a year as a company. We've done it. This was our 10th this past year, and Brett always delivers the keynote and takes us home. It's a couple days off site. You know, we go over vision of the company and where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. It's incredible time. We have so much fun, and Brett always brings it home with a keynote that happens to always end up being an emotional keynote because that's who we are. And guess what it was this past year? It was the lighthouse, right? If I sent you the video of the keynote, you would see that the visual that was giving was the lighthouse and life happening around in the rocky waves. And we had shirts, I get chills talking about, that say "Be the Light," right? That was our theme this summit. And so I think the last couple of years, I think we've gotten clear. And I would say too, I mean, I'm very guilty of being a tugboat and sometimes frustrated at times that our expectations of others are let down. And then you realize that, hey man, like, why are you projecting all this like on other people, man? You got plenty of work to do on yourself. So there was this book called Discipline is Destiny that I read by Ryan Holiday. And I think it was be loose with others, but strict with yourself. And whenever I get out of balance, I feel like I come back to that quote and say, hey, dude, you got plenty to work on. You got plenty to tighten up before you can kind of judge what somebody else should or shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I when I saw that, I had to replay it a couple times, and I'm like, I wonder how much more successful certain coaches would be if they became more of a lighthouse than a tugboat. I mean, you're always going to be able to manage and lead from a certain point as a tugboat. And I have a hard time with it. I go back to the Kobe Bryant quote, I don't understand lazy people and they don't understand me, right? We speak a different language, and that's the truth with me. And I struggle with that because I think everybody should want it as much as I do. I know that's not the best thing to say, but it's true. And then I don't understand why you don't want it, why you don't take the action that I take. So I need to focus more on the lighthouse, get away from the tugboat in certain situations. But what I've found with the personal development space and leadership is there's nothing more fulfilling for me than when I have someone message me and go, hey, Chris, I listened to your podcast this morning. One of my employees, dude, it set me right where I need to go. Thank you so much for the one-on-one yesterday, or thank you for the book club that we run. Thank you for all these different things. Well, I'm thanking them because those make me better, right? So it's just, I'm glad that it helps you, but man, it helps me just as much.
There's a saying that says we do these calls, to your point, like these book clubs is calls. And there's a saying that we learned from a mentor long ago, and you could substitute this with anything, but either you need the call or the call needs you, right? So always plug into the call, right? Like, and I think that's a good example. It's like you're thanking me, but it's like, nah, I needed this just as much, if not more, than you did. You know?
And I think too, the lighthouse example, it's like you can be the lighthouse for somebody, but somebody's going to be the lighthouse for you, right? You don't have to be the lighthouse for everyone. Talk about that, Ed Milet coach, right? You're both equipped to help the person that you once were, right? And even if you just focused on that, you can have a greater impact than trying to be the lighthouse for everyone. Not everyone's looking that way. Not everyone's looking to go to the island that you're on. One thing that we realized is we hired a coach 2 years ago. He's been an amazing gift, Mike Gonzalez. I mean, we do fitness, we do NLP with him, and I hear a lot of the things that you're saying is stuff that he's coached us on. And so much of that, he's been such a lighthouse for us. I mean, he's been the epitome of that. So it's cool to kind of reciprocate that somebody like that, we're able to borrow from their teachings, their example, and then we're able to shine it the other way. And whoever's there in the harbor that sees it is able to get value from it, like you mentioned about the podcast listens.
So where are we going now? You know, obviously the insurance business is doing very well. You guys are growing. I saw the post the other day. You guys had a massive month, and I don't know what all those numbers mean, but they look pretty big. So I'm assuming that's really good. But where do you guys want to go now? I mean, besides just the business, I know you guys you're very passionate about lots of things. So what else are you trying to accomplish and use the insurance business as a platform to push and get it there?
This is great. We're very aligned on this. It's super exciting. You know, we started the business, like I said, when we were never looking to start an agency. We were looking to build a business inside of a business. Right? We were looking to we didn't want to build the roads. We wanted to leverage somebody else's roads and build a badass car, right? Like, and build a fleet of vehicles. And, you know, we just kind of, necessity is the mother of invention. We kind of got thrusted into this situation. If we were going to fit in, you know, a box that we wanted to live in, we kind of had to build it. But that really wasn't the most ideal situation. There's a lot. And so, you know, we always talked about that, like, you know, we want to create extraordinary lives for ourselves first, but then be able to create extraordinary lives for somebody else. And so the idea of building a business inside of a business has always been there for us. Again, because you're most equipped to help the person that you once were. Like, that's who we were. And so, right now, we have been developing over the last 18 months now, a really, really incredible program. We have 3 operators now throughout the state where we're fine-tuning some details. We're onboarding another one this month. And so the idea of giving, people an opportunity to enterprise inside of our system, allowing them to have part of the American dream and create for themselves, but not have to build the roads, just, assemble the vehicles and create a fleet of vehicles is something that we're all extremely excited about right now. It's taking everything that we've learned over the last decade, distilling it down into a system and a process that works, and then being able to give that opportunity to somebody else to enterprise it. And we feel like we've got something really, really special. But also, it's something that really gets us up out of bed in the morning. It's something that we get excited about. It's like that lighthouse. We're watching the light bulb come on for people. We're watching people already completely change what they thought was possible, and put them, they're on a path that's it's completely different than when we initially started the conversations with them. So I think the next 5 years will be a significant push to create that opportunity for a lot of people and expand distribution, which is exciting. But
yeah, you said it really well. And I think based around that, you mentioned you mentioned that post and say, hey, I don't know what those numbers are. They look good. They look good. There's always somebody, I think Brett's post, if you read the caption on the post, I think is just really well written, because you talk about the independent operator program that we're talking about and the market that we hope to serve. And I think that market is this: somebody got into business for themselves, or they want to go to the business for themselves, but they've hit a plateau, or they got into business to have more time. Now they have less time. They got into business to make more money. Now they're making less money. They got into, so we just believe in our business specifically that there's power in scale. There's, to truly set out and do what we wanted to do, we had to get to a certain size to enjoy the fruits of your labor, have some time freedom, have some leverage, that kind of thing. So we just really are focused on serving the people that dig that same stuff and want that same stuff, in creating systems and processes to take what it took for us to get there. So, it doesn't have to take them 12 years, doesn't have to take them 10 years, 8 years. And I look at, your post about what we wrote in a month or whatever, and we were really bad. Like, we weren't good. I mean, we started in business, like we were talking about, we're trying to build all these roads. Like, it took us way longer than it quote unquote could have, right? Like, no money, no experience, nothing sexy at all. And then there was just this tipping point where we got it. We got recommitted to what we truly believed in. We started to attracting people that believed the same things, and then things started to get explosive and scaling. And right now, it's like, I can't even feel like we could stop the train if we wanted to. But man, those first couple of years, I mean, you would not look at that group and go, yeah, that group's going to be successful. You'd look at that group and be like, yeah, we'll give them some time. Maybe they make it, maybe they don't. So I think, so serving those people that are having those same pains that we experienced that were brutal those first 4 years, and helping them shrink their learning curve and their gaps so they can have all that they want on the mission they set out to do.
I think it's awesome. First of all, I love the abundance mindset. We can help other people learn faster than we did. I love doing that. I love doing calls with people who are trying to grow their business and scale and do different things. And I can give them some insight of the struggles and the challenges that I went through and help them. And I'm really good at finding mentors to do that. Like I said, I have a call with Ben Newman later today, and he's pulling the curtain back on a business that he built over 14 years. And he's going to show me everything.
Can I be part of that call? What do I got to do to be part of that call, Chris?
I can invoice you for what I paid for the call if you'd be interested in it. But the thing about it to me too is, what can I share? You know what I mean? And I'd love to, and I'll take tons of notes and record it, and I have no problem sharing with everybody. Like, that's who I am with that. And when I have people today in our market or any market that come to me and say, Chris, I feel like you've led me to where I am today, but I want to go try to do something on my own. For me, that's one of the biggest compliments I can ever get, is if they've positioned themselves to a point where they've outgrown me, which is tough to do because I'm always growing, trying to be better, and my objective is for them never to outgrow me. But if they do and they go out and they run on their own and they've done something, they can do something amazing, I'm all for it. A lot of people in our industries aren't that way. You know, I feel like that's my job. And then when they do that, then it's my job to find someone else behind them or already have people in place that are going to do the same thing.
I wanted to give you props because you're an open, transparent book. You give, and it's very prevalent in this stage of your career that your whole job title is give, right? Like I feel like every day you wake up and okay, what do you do for a living? I give, right? I give, and I'm going to enterprise giving. So that's a compliment to you, and I also want to agree with you and just to say that, you know, a lot of people aren't like that. And people are jaded. I was on a call yesterday with an agent, and he asked me, he's like, hey, what about this? And I was like, you need to focus here. Like, stop worrying about everything else. Focus on this. He's like, well, yeah, and what do you guys do? You probably don't want to tell me because I know that's a lot of much to tell. I'm like, dude, I'll tell you anything, everything. He's like, well, do you do coaching? I'm like, no, I don't do coaching. Man, we're in it right now. No, I can't. We don't do that. I'm doing his. Well, I was like, just text me, man. Here's my number. Text me. There's nothing that you can't ask. But his perception was that, oh, well, you're going to tell me what to focus on, but you're not going to tell me how you do it because that's some secret sauce that you don't want to give to anybody because that would give you an unfair advantage. And it's like, man, is that where we're at? Is that your perception of that? Is like that's too touchy? Like you found something that's successful, and you can beat around the bush, but you're not going to tell me exactly how to do it because then for some reason it's going to make you less successful. And that's a shame because that is how most people are, unfortunately.
I have no problem telling you how I'm going to do it and how I did it because most of you won't do the work. So I'm cool with that. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like it's such a small percentage. Right. And when I go present and I give strategies, excuse me, I'm going to Columbus, Ohio this week to speak or next week. The first thing I'm going to say when I get on stage is the strategies I'm going to share with you. Only 2 to 3 people in this room are going to do it. And that's okay. Yeah. And that's why I have no problem. I have no problem sharing with it if you all did it, but most of you aren't willing to do the work. But here's what I did, and this is how I did it and developed into something I'm very proud of. No issues with that at all. And you guys know I'm the self-proclaimed king of rip off and duplicate. So if you see something and you don't want it to be done, you should not share it with me. Like I'm just going to let you know right now, you should not share it. You should hide it. But I'm going to look at it, try to figure out a way I can do it better.
It comes back to that slight edge, right? Like it's the simple disciplines practiced over a long period of time that seem to make no difference at all in the act of doing them. But added up over a long period of time, they either lead to success or failure. You know, someone's looking for, if you tell me what to do, if you give me the secret, I'm going to get to skip that part. I don't have to practice the slight edge. But when you tell somebody, and it's actually this simple discipline, you know, and I just did it over and 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 over again, and I did it longer than somebody else, and most people quit along the way, and then I had success after that bending knee happened. It's like, oh, okay, so you're not telling me the shortcut here. You're just giving me the path. It's like, look, I'm not giving you a shortcut. I'm just giving you the path. So you got to ask yourself, what are you really asking me? Are you asking me, how do I do what you did without going through the fire? Or are you asking me what is required and what is the path? And to your point, Chris, most people are asking, how do I get your result without doing what you did? You know, how do I not go through that? And the answer is you don't. You don't get to do that. That's not how life works.
Here's a roadmap, guys. This is how I got from A to Z. You still got to drive the car. I'm not Uber, right? You got to drive the car. You still got to get the keys to the ignition, and you got to go there. You're going to get a flat tire. You got to do all those things. But here's how I got there. It's going to take some time off of it. But as we start to wrap up, I do want to let's talk about daily disciplines real quick. You guys know we've had conversations. I'm considered a sicko about the things I do, and we're sharing some of those traits, I believe, like with the Goggins challenge and those types of things. But let's just run through daily disciplines real quick. I'm curious what those look like for you guys. Are both super fit, and I know that's got to be. You have to, if you're going to represent that is who you are as a person. That has to be something you stick to. So can we get a brief breakdown of what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of my disciplines from this guy. I mean, he played basketball at a really high level. So, you know, when I was trying to figure out how to get the results of working out without working out, I kind of looked at Taylor, and he was getting it done. So I have a lot of things that I do now that are very, very different that I'm very proud of. But, I mean, I got a lot of that from him. So I don't know if you want to start. But
yeah, no, I think, too, as I referenced, we were just a couple skinny kids with okay genetics. So it's a lot of work to even have somebody perceive that you're in shape. So, but you know, it's funny. We work out as a group. I mean, clearly, I mean, the core part of what we do is there's a I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 11 maybe it's 12 people now. Some of our core people at Erb and Young, we share a coach, and you have people tune in from all different markets. But it's usually Tuesdays and Wednesday mornings at 7:30. We're doing HIIT mixed with all kinds of different workouts. Borrow a little bit from CrossLift, traditional lifting, all that different stuff. But I work out probably 5-6 days a week in some capacities. I like to wake up earlier. 6 a.m. That's usually when I'll try to get some cardio in, and then when I'm really good, I'll do some cold exposure or some cold showers in the morning. And
you a Peloton guy?
Guy? We got rid of the Peloton, but used to be a Peloton guy. So it ebbs and flows, but I think it's definitely become ingrained as a habit. I know what you mentioned from athletics. I kind of just have always done that physically, but I will say habits-wise for me, again, I talked about this earlier, something that kind of coming back to used to be a habit. I got into a rhythm where it was just you get home, you're exhausted, and you mentally just want to shut it down. You turn on Netflix, and then you just ride that until you go to sleep. And I just found myself craving a book again. And so, I'll try to watch a show or two, but then at least finish the hour or half hour of my day to read something I'm interested in that's going to make me better at night. So I've re-engaged that in the last couple of weeks, and I can totally feel the difference. It's amazing how sometimes it just takes a little bit of a tweak of a habit that if I read before I go to bed, I am way more likely to get up right when my alarm goes off. And then when I get up right when my alarm goes off and I get my 30 to 45 minutes of cardio in and I come back, I am way more likely to get that cold shower in, right? And it perpetuates. So I know for me, if I just get a little bit off, I just have to get a little bit back on to be able to make sure that I'm, kind of dialed the way that I need to be dialed for my own energy. So,
yeah, mine, I was a 4 a.m. guy. I am not a 4 a.m. guy anymore. I'm going to get back on my 4 a.m. That's a commitment. But, man, I'll tell you what, that'll change your life right there. At least do it for 6 months and see what happens. But so I'm a 5:30 wake up. I'm going to get a workout in, read a book. Usually those workouts will end with some meditation. It's one of the reasons I love the coach that we work with. We down-regulate after the workouts. So we'll do breath work and meditation after we get the heart rate completely jacked. So you get that polarity and that calm before you enter into your day. And then, ending the day, I got 2 in yesterday. I started the day, and then I've ended with the gym afterwards, which was nice. I don't usually get that, but that was cool. And then at night, I'm usually reading. I'm putting the kids down, and then I'm reading a book. So I'm not an audible type guy. I do podcasts if I'm on a drive time, but I really like to read because I like to mark it up. I like to highlight and all that good jazz. So, but as far as, and then from a regimen standpoint, from an eating standpoint, I've got a regiment from a health standpoint where I wasn't getting enough caloric intakes, and now I'm on that game as well. So just simple stuff, man, nothing crazy.
Yeah, and I think Brett, too, I think one of the cool habits he has is borrow from. A lot of people will look at Brett in our space and be like, man, how do you get so much content out, or how do you put all yada, yada, yada? And he gets up early and he writes copy, right? So he has a content machine through kind of a CRM type deal, but he'll get up at, when he was waking up at 4, waking up at 5, he'll do 30, 45 minutes of just writing copy, right? When he's fresh when waking. And I've borrowed from that, but a lot of times you see how much content somebody's putting out. You're like, man, they must spend all day doing that. And it's really productive, the hack that you do in the morning.
Yeah. I was told by someone last year that you are the content. So constantly be ready to film and do stuff. Like you'll see some of the stuff that I post. It's when I'm in my office and I have coaching sessions, I'm coaching on one screen here, but then I have a camera off the side that's recording. I call it the dime cam. So anytime I drop a dime, I've got a button in my pocket I hit and it records, and then I chop that up and send it out.
I love that.
Which helps with that because it's super demanding to put a ton of content out. And my coach is making me post 81 reels this quarter. On multiple areas. So to do that, I have to constantly be ready to chop things up. So let's, as we finish, what book are you guys reading right now?
The Changing of the New World Order by Ray Dalio. It's just more of a historical perspective of the rise and fall of empires. And I do want to brag on it. Get the book. It's unbelievable. It'll make you a better thinker. It's made me a better thinker. And what about it that is magnificent, they're probably tired of me talking about it. Because every time I talk to them, I'm like, dude, this is just like in the 1500s with the, but it's very macro and how the world works in these cycles. But it also really relates to how you operate as a human in your personal life, and in your marriage, in your friendships, in your business. And so that is what I'm reading right now, and I love it.
Cool. Yeah, he's also reading, as a group, we're reading the Effortless Experience, which is about client experience. So we're reading that as a group too, which is super dope. That's a really good book. You run a business, or you're in charge of client experience. That's really good. I just cracked Power versus Force, which is fascinating because it's a concept in the sense of, I think CEOs and leaders can have a victim mentality sometimes. Woe is me. And the world's stacked against you. Nobody understands me, and I know that leadership is lonely, and I have felt that probably over the last 6-8 months in my own personal journey. And that was a recommendation for me. So I get to go down the path of power versus force. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm reading our book club. We're doing Flip the Switch by Coach Michael Burt, which is really cool because he's going to be on my podcast in 2 weeks. I won Jordaned him a couple weeks ago. And then I'm reading The Greatness Mindset by Lewis Howes, which is awesome. Like, it's really good. We're going to do that next for our book club. So if anybody wants to reach out and connect with you guys, what's the best way to do that?
Man, the website, the Be Extraordinary podcast is the show that obviously we were blessed to have you on. It's beextraordinarypodcast.com. You can go there. You can look at all the episodes. And then, we're on LinkedIn heavy, and on Instagram heavy. So, just Taylor Young, Brett Young, Erb and Young, reach out to us, give us a DM, love to connect. Man, social's so awesome, man. And if you do reach out, we appreciate it. We'll definitely connect. So yeah, those are the platforms. And then, but also just give some love to the podcast. We always appreciate anybody that tunes in and gives some love because it's a passion project for us. We love it.
Yeah, check out the podcast.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome. I'm a regular listener, and there's always great stuff on there.
Yeah, thanks for having us too, Chris, man. You're an inspiration to us, man. We've talked about you since we've met more than you know, and I just really, really appreciate the platform. Yeah,
man, thanks, guys. I appreciate having you on. We'll talk again soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to the One Hand at a Time podcast today. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and share. I'm often asked if I'm available for speaking opportunities or accepting new coaching clients. The answer is yes. Feel free to click the Calendly link in the show notes to set up a 30-minute call with myself. And remember, as we move forward in life, we do it one hand at a time.